Hey everybody, this is Strategywizard again, and today I'm going to be doing a review of a little bitty card game called Scopa. Technically, this little box is not a Scopa card deck specifically, but this is what I have, so that's the box I'm showing. Now, you can technically play Scopa with a regular set of cards, you'll see how once you see the rules. Although I would say that having an actual deck is better. But that's neither here nor there. It's a 2 to 4 player game. It's trick taking, pretty quick, and I know it's a Sicilian game. It even says on this box, made in Italy. So it's got those kind of origins. It's an old game. Don't know how old. I don't really know that much about it. And I'm not really a big trick taking game fan. That's not to say I don't like them, but it's not typically something. It's not a go-to mechanic for me. But the reason why we got this game is because my wife is really into the Nancy Drew PC games that are published by Her Interactive. They're at like game number 30 maybe. I mean, there's a whole bunch of them. And one of them that's maybe relatively early, I don't know, maybe number 13 or something in the series, was The Phantom of Venice. And you know, in these point-and-click adventure games, it's like a mystery, solving puzzles and everything. You know, one of the challenges was to beat somebody in a game of Scopa. So my wife was playing, and she got me playing it, trying to beat this guy. And through playing it, we found that we actually liked playing against the computer, and I thought, you know, I wonder if this is a real game. So I looked it up. Sure enough, it was, and I thought, well, you know what? Cheap deck of cards. Let's buy it and let's play it. So we got it. We've played it many times, and the question is, after having good experience with it, you know, what do I think? Was it worth it? Was it worth buying it after playing it on the PC against the computer? Well, let's go to the table. I'll tell you how to play, and then I will let you know what I think. So here's the setup for 2 players. We have 4 cards dealt out in the center, 3 cards dealt to each player. And if it was 3 or 4 players, everyone would still get 3 cards. Now, the goal of the game is to get the most points. The first person to 10 points wins. How do you get points? Well, this is a trick-taking game. You're taking tricks by playing cards that match what's here, or by getting a combination. For example, you have 2 3s here, and there's 4 suits. Suits don't matter so much except for scoring at the end, and I'll explain that. But you have swords, cups, clubs, and you have coins, which here's an example of a coin. Basically, as you're playing cards, let's say I had this in my hand. Not only can I take a 6 if it's out there, but I could also take things that add up to 6. So 2 3s equals 6. I could take all of that if I had that in my hand. And you can combine even more than that. You could play, the cards go all the way to 10. It's 1 to 10. And just for informational purposes, 8 is this squire. This is an 8 of cups. Then the 9 is a horseman. This is a 9 of swords. And 10s are kings, so it's a 10 of coins. So if I had, let's see, a 10 would be a good example. In my hand, I could take the 6, a 3, and a 1 for 10, and take all of those cards, which would be a very powerful play to get that many cards at one time. Now, there's one exception. Let's say there was a 10 out here, and as you play, you could have more than 4 cards in the center. If you can't take anything, let's just look at my hand real quick, and I'll maybe show an example. Well, I can definitely take something with my hand because I have the 10, and my 4 could take a 3 and a 1. My 1 could take a 1. But let's say I had an 8 in my hand. Can't take an 8 here. There's 6, 7. There's 4, and all this other stuff. But there's no way to get 8 here. If I had 3 8s in my hand, I would have to toss this out. So this could be more or less cards in the center as you play. But let's just say, point being, if there was an 8 here, I'm sorry, the other way around. Since I have a 10, a good example is if there was a 10 here, and I went, ooh, wow, I can take 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Wow, I can get 3 cards. If the card that you want to play is already out here, you have to take the card that matches first before you can take a combination. So you have to keep that in mind as you play. But basically, with my 3 cards, if I was starting, I'd look at this and I'd say, oh, I'll go ahead and take these 10. Now, there's a risk to doing this. I leave 1 card out here, move that to the side as my tricks. I still have these. My opponent goes. If my opponent had a 3, that would be very bad, because if you take the last card, now he can't do it in his case. He's going to have to discard a card into the center. But let's say he could take it. If he took the last card, let's just pretend this 2 was a 3. And whenever you take it, you say Scopa. And whenever you do that, you get an automatic 1 point. Every time you clear the board, unless it's the very last trick taken, that's the only exception. That one doesn't give you a Scopa. Every other one, as soon as you take the last card on the table, you get a point. Shout Scopa, bam, you got a point. Not that you have to say Scopa to get the point, but the point is that's kind of the idea of the game. That's why it's called Scopa. That's the goal, is to clear the board if you can. If they did that, then on my turn I have to choose which one of these to just put out here into the center. Coins are very valuable, so maybe this is where it gets a little tricky. I could throw out a 4, which is good because it's a coin and my opponent would have a chance to get it. But so I may not want to do that. I might rather play my 1 in the hopes that my opponent plays something, maybe they'll play a 3, and then I can combine my 4 to get a 3 plus 1 is 4, get a Scopa myself. So I'll throw the 1 out there hoping he plays out a 3, but he doesn't. So he might play a 4 hoping that I play 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Ooh, no. The only way I could get a 9 as a big combo would be if my opponent played a 4, which would total 9, but if they play a 4, they have to take a trick, and they would want to anyway. So that makes it a little tougher. I don't know what I would do. I might just play the 9, because 9s are very not valuable, which I'll explain that in a little bit. And then they'll play their 4. I'll take that, get a trick. So this is going to keep going, and now once this happens and no one has any cards left, everyone gets dealt 3 more cards. And you continue as before. Whoever went first originally goes first in this round. Oh, I got the 7 of coins, which is the most valuable card of the game. So in this case, I can't use it yet, but I can take that 9. My opponent has 3 cards. What do they have? They can't get the Scopa. If they had a 1, they would get a free point, but they don't. What would they do in this case? If they put out a 9, if I had a 10, which would be a king, I could actually Scopa with a 9 and a 1, so that'd be a scary thing to do, but this is also the same. If I have a 3, I can get a Scopa, but that's a tough situation to be in. If I was them, I'd probably play the 2 because they have a 2, so they have a good chance of getting to claim a trick. If that happened, I don't want to play the 7 of coins because I don't want to give my opponent a chance to get it, so I might play this 8, hoping that they play a 7, because I want to get this very badly. And my opponent might play, oh, well, they'd claim that 8 and 1 with a 9, and then I would play my 7, they would take this 2, and we would continue going around, getting 3 more cards and continuing to play. By the time all the cards in the deck have been dealt out and played, that's whenever you calculate your points for the round. Now, at the very end, what'll happen, let's just say this is the last bit. Let's say I have this card left, and let's say this person has this. Let's just trash these actually, and let's say I was the last person to claim a trick. Let's say I claimed these 7s, so I was the last person to get a trick. Let's say, oh, and I better get rid of that 4 because that's going to mess up my example. And I play this 4. I was the last person to get a trick. I play this 4. They play this 2. That means I get all the cards on the table. Whoever gets the last trick gets any cards left on the table. Once you have all the cards, you're going to total up your points. And apart from Scopas, there's 4 ways to get points. Whoever got the most tricks, which means the most cards. Whoever has the most cards in their trick pile gets 1 point. If I had all these, I guarantee you I'd get that because that's a lot of cards. The second way to get points is to have the 7 of coins, which is why it's so valuable. It's the only card that by itself is worth a point. So if I got that, there's another point. So now I have 2 points. Then the other way to get points is to get the most coin cards. That's the 1 of coins, so that's 1. There's 10, since I told you before, there's 10 numbers, there's 1 through 10 in each suit, so you have to have at least 6 to have the most. If there's a tie, no one gets the point. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That's all I need to know that I got the most. So I get that point. I get 1 point for having the most coins. The final way to get points, and this is the most complicated, is having the highest number of primes. Primes basically means whatever you add up the point value of the highest value card in each suit. This is the only time suits matter. So this is kind of complicated, but I can tell you this. 7 is the best. So first thing you do is you look for your 7s. How many 7s do I have? I know I've got the 7 of coins. Right off the bat, if you have 3 7s, there's a good chance... Oh, wait. I'm an idiot. That's a 5. But if you have 3 7s, you have a great chance of having the highest number of primes, and I'll show you how you calculate that in a second. There's another 7. Oh, there's another 7. I have all the 7s. I know I have the highest number of primes, therefore I get the 4th point. Once that happens, you tally your points, and then you start another round by dealing 4 in the center, dealing each player 3 cards. The person who went last, then the rotation of who goes first rotates around the table. In a 2-player game, it would just be the other person. So here's how you calculate the highest number of primes. This is written in Italian, which I cannot read, but I know enough to be able to figure it out. And as I said before, I know this game. I already knew a lot of this because of the Nancy Drew game that my wife played, so I kind of already knew what to look for. But this is how it works. Primes. The 7 is worth 21 points. The 6 is worth 18 points. The 1 is worth 16. 5 is worth 15. 4 is 14. 3 is 13. The 2 is 12, and the face cards are worth 10. So the higher value cards are worth less points when it comes to calculating your prime value. So 7s are the best, and 6s and 1s. So you're really looking for the 7, 6, and 1s to see if you have a lot of value in your primes. Now again, just to make this clear, you're adding the highest value card in each of the suits. So in this case, since my highest in each suit is a 7, my value would be 21 times 4, which would be 84. So I've got a lot of prime value here. If let's say my highest 7 was a 1, it'd be 21 times 3, which would be 63, plus the value of a 1, which was 16, and which is of course less than the other. So the point is, you add up those, and that's who gets the last of the 4 points. Hopefully that's not too confusing, but generally just understand this. It's a trick-taking game. You're playing your cards, getting the tricks. You can combine to get more cards if they add up to whatever card you're playing, unless the card that you're wanting to play is already out there, then you have to take that first. Then whenever you're getting points, it's whoever has the 7 of coins gets a point. Whoever has the most coin cards gets a point. Whoever has the highest number of primes, as I just described, gets a point. And did I say coin cards? It's coin cards, 7 of coins, number of cards taken in tricks, and the primes. Those are the ways to get points. Apart from Scopas, where you clear the board, that's how you play. And actually, just as a little side note, I had this other game in here called Briscola, but I can't read Italian, so I really don't know how to play that one. Just a little side note. But anyway, let's go ahead and go up top. I'll tell you what I think and all that good stuff, which I guess you kind of already know, but hey, let's go ahead and do it anyway. Okay, so Scopa, as you can see, is really pretty simple, apart from the scoring of the, what do they call them, highest number of primes. That's a little wonky, and you have to maybe pay attention a little bit, but apart from that, it's a very simple trick-taking game. And I've played a few trick-taking games in my time. I've played Rook, I've played Spades, and stuff like that. And I just have to say that I really like this one, and I think the reason why I do is because I don't know. I don't even know what it is. I don't have a... Let me just go through my typical routine, and maybe I'll have some better words whenever I get to the end. As far as component quality, it's a deck of cards. Depending on the deck you get, it'll be better or worse. So that's just that. As far as replayability, I find it to be very replayable. We've played it tons of times, me and my wife. I mean, we have just played the gajoodles out of it. The cards have shown a little bit of wear as a result, which I guess is a good sign, because obviously we like it. And as far as the strategic level, yeah, there's a lot of luck, which is probably the case in a lot of trick-taking games. You know, what you get dealt controls a lot of what can happen, and probably there's even more luck in this one than others, because you don't have your whole hand in front of you at the beginning. You don't, and as you play, you're trying to make choices with limited information, but there is a good bit of strategy in another sense. First of all, if you're good at card counting, which I'm not, then you can pay attention to what cards have been played, so you know what your opponent could do. And that makes a big difference. Even though I'm not good at it, I can usually tell, hey, I think all the 10s have been played, so I know I can play this safely, and they're not going to be able to swoop up all these cards. And so that's important, to pay attention to what cards are possibly still in the game. And, you know, knowing when it's worth it, taking the chance of playing a coin card out there for that your opponent could take. That's risky because you don't want them to get too many coin cards, but sometimes it's worth it to push your luck if you think that you might get a chance to swoop up a lot of cards after the fact. It's all those balancing acts, each little mini round of getting those 3 cards and trying to decide which one is best to play. Am I going to have a good chance of getting a lot of cards if I play this, or do I want to play it safe and play something that I know my opponent probably can't play off of, but I can't do much with it on my next turn either. All those things, there's enough of that going on that I feel like my choices make a difference in this game. They really make a difference. I mean, if you're not trying to make good plays, you will lose. That's just the way it is. So I like that aspect of it. As far as my rating of the game, this is an easy 7 out of 10, which of course means that I'm usually willing to play. I would even go as far as to say, that's my personal opinion. I'm usually willing to play it. But for people who really like trick-taking games, I think this would be just a flat-out recommendation, because it's clean and it's simple, and the way, and I feel like and I don't have a lot of experience with a ton of trick-taking games, but I feel like it's somewhat unique in the fact that you get these mini hands of 3 cards, and what's on the table is changing, and you're trying to figure out, you know, the best plays to make, and the scoring at the end is pretty unique. The fact that it's total number of tricks, then the most of this one suit, then that one card of that one suit, meaning the 7 of coins, and then the highest value cards you have in each suit, the total of all that, if that gets you a point, and the Scopa mechanism of clearing the board. All those things, it keeps you thinking, and you know, you're worried about the coin cards getting taken. You're worried about the 7 of coins if it pops up. You're worried about getting the most tricks, regardless of how valuable the individual cards are. And all those elements just, I don't know, they just work together to make a very unique and interesting trick-taking game. So I really like it. My wife really likes it. This is probably her favorite game of all, out of all the ones I own, because, you know, she usually likes lighter things anyway. This one's light, simple, breezy, and relatively quick. And if you wanted to, you can just play to first to 5 points. You don't have to play to 10. You can play to wherever you want. And it's tiny, so you can just play it anywhere. So yeah, we both really enjoy this game. If she gave it a rating, it'd probably be more like an 8 or a 9. And yeah, so take that as you will. Know that we like this as a trick-taking game, and hopefully you will too. Now, if you enjoyed this, please give me a thumbs up. I'd appreciate that. And if you want to see more, subscribe, and you'll see more of my videos. Also, leave me in the comments if you have any questions. If I didn't clarify everything well enough for you, especially on the prime card issue. But you know, yeah, leave me some comments if you have any questions, and I look forward to seeing you on the next video. Take care, everybody. Bye.